My wife and I retired early from our office desk jobs last year in our early 50s. We live a frugal life and put enough into our 401k, IRAs, and investments that we felt we were at a good enough place to retire and live off them. We're not millionaires or rich by any means, but we did well for ourselves through some strategic planning. Our son and our daughter-in-law are struggling to save up for a down payment, and they asked us if we could sell our house to him at a reduced rate, almost 50% of what its current market rate is, and we said no. Our rental properties are part of our retirement plan, and we weren't even planning on selling this one, even if our son would have offered to buy it at full price. We don't have access to our retirement accounts yet, so our rental properties are where we get our income from. We told him he could rent it from us at a reduced rate, 80% of what our current tenants pay, but he said he couldn't afford that and he wasn't interested in renting anymore. I suggested maybe finding a house in a lower price range, and I could give him $10,000 to help with the mortgage, but he didn't like that either and threatened to cut us off. I didn't budge on my decision because I don't want to jeopardize our retirement plans in any capacity and have to depend on someone else in our old age. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, not even a little bit, given your alternative generous offers. Your son and daughter-in-law are definitely entitled a-holes. Completely. These rental homes are basically your income. You say you are retired, but you are actually still landlords actively making money each month. So he basically wants you to give him part of your money each month. He should be proud to have parents that were able to retire so young and be asking your advice. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. 50% off is an enormous amount. If you could easily afford it and it was a case of, oh well, that's one less holiday in the Bahamas for us for the next few years, I guess you could argue for it. But as far as I can read, you've decided to retire early and you're dependent on the property income until you get access to your 401k. So selling at a reduced price would put financial pressure on you. In that case, you shouldn't feel pressured into that at all. It sounds like you've been relatively generous by offering to help them with a deposit on a place. I think your son's being a bit of an entitled a-hole here. I, female, have been with John for 11 years. He has 3 children from his previous marriage, 27 female, 23 female, and 20 male. I'll talk about Henry, 20 male. John's old marriage didn't end in the most healthy way, I'd say, and the divorce was a pretty mess. It was a legal battle for custody of the children, as his ex wanted full custody and he wanted 50-50. This was 15 years ago. Apparently, the kids took sides with each parent, the girls with John and Henry with their mother. And even though he spent thousands on family therapy, Henry's relationship with John was never the same after the parents signed their divorce. When I was introduced as a girlfriend by John, 5 years after the divorce, as you can predict, Henry didn't react well, and at first I tried to approach him. But eventually, I got tired of getting only spicy and rude comments, leaving him alone. Eventually, the girls asked to move in with my husband and the judge granted, and I moved in with John after 2 years. So I have a close relationship with them, unlike Henry. As time went on, he stopped coming on weekends, despite John trying very hard. 1 year ago, John said he missed Henry. He hadn't seen him for months and he barely responded to messages. College. I decided to try to surprise him and called Henry, asking if he would like to come on the X day, John's birthday, to celebrate, and that I would pay for everything. He responded with, "I know you're not capable of having children, but stop trying to make me yours. We're nothing." This upset me a lot, because I don't have children because I had cancer, and he knows it. I told John and he got really mad, and it caused an argument between them. Well, in a few months it will be my wedding, delayed because of the virus. And when it came time to send the invitations, I was very honest with John that I don't feel comfortable with Henry coming to the wedding, and I doubt he would. And if he did, maybe cause confusion, in addition to being sad for what he said to me that day. But I would understand if he called. He agreed for Henry not to go, and said he would talk to Henry about it. When Henry and his mother found out, they started texting me saying that I was pushing his father away, and that it was cruel of me to just have excluded him. I invited the sisters. Calling all names, he tried to guilt trip on me for being the reason for his estrangement from his father. Their relationship was already out of date well before I met John. I just really don't feel comfortable inviting someone who has never made a point of interacting with me and has said hurtful things to me, and that from the beginning was against my relationship with his father, and I didn't force John to do that. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Although, as you said, he probably wouldn't have shown up to the wedding anyway. I think there was a small risk he would have shown up and ruined the wedding if he wanted to. I think it's time the ex and Henry and his dad sit down and have a talk, that he should at least be civil around you and the family, especially now that he's a grown adult. Not the a-hole. Henry's 20 years old, more than old enough to realize if you treat people like crap, you get excluded for your trouble. That said, this is mostly on his mother. Unless John's secret identity is some sort of aggressive monster, I highly doubt a 5-year-old would support 100% custody from either parent without someone whispering in their ear about it. It's very likely that Mommy Dearest has been actively poisoning him all these years as revenge for standing up to her. Your relationship with him isn't going to improve no matter what you do. Even if you did invite him to your wedding, he's likely to try to ruin it, whether by his mother's instruction or by his own accord. Honestly, I think you made an error. If you had invited him and not pushed, he likely would have declined to come to spite you, and you could have kept your hands clean. By saying you aren't invited, you've put yourself into a much more difficult position because it's ammo for them to use against you. How else would someone react to a stepmom saying the groom's child isn't invited? Knee-jerk response from the kid, ex, and family will be against you, not the a-hole. I'm not saying you did something wrong, just pointing out that this may not have been the best strategy. So, I'm in a predicament right now. My mother-in-law has 3 grandsons, my husband's brother's 2 boys, 4 and 6 years, and our boy, 2 years. She has always showed favoritism towards the other 2 boys, especially the oldest, since he was what made her a grandmother. She'll offer to watch them and go over to their house multiple times a week, and they live 45 minutes away. My husband basically has to bribe his mom to come over and see our son, and that's usually inviting her over for supper, and she'll show up 2 minutes before our son's bedtime, long after supper has been over, and we only live 10 minutes from her house. She posts all over Facebook about the other 2 boys, and sometimes about our son. But when I post anything about our boy, she likes to come off as the doting grandmother. Okay, so fast forward to today. We asked if she could watch our boy, which we rarely do, and she said she was with the other 2 boys, but she would gladly watch him with the other 2 at about 8 p.m. Well, our son's bedtime is at 7:30, and she was going to come here with the other kids and spend the night. We asked why so late. Turns out, she hired a photographer to take pictures of her, my father-in-law, and the 2 boys to make a Christmas card, and not including my son. I could see my husband was hurt by this, so I told him to ask why our boy wasn't included, and her excuse was, we wanted him there, but we had no way to get him there in secret for it to be a surprise. And I told him she was just backpedaling, because she was caught. I told him he should just stop asking her to come over and spend time or watch our son. I canceled my plans tonight because I thought she didn't have the right to hang out with my kid, and part of my job of being a parent is that sometimes plans get canceled because you don't have childcare, and I'm 100% okay with that. It's life. I don't need to go out anyway, but good Lord. My husband still wants to keep trying, and I get it. It's his mom, but I feel like she's doing more damage than good. Don't get me wrong, I won't keep her from her grandchild, but I also feel like we should no longer ask her to come over. So, am I the a-hole for saying to no longer reach out to her? Not the a-hole. If she truly wanted to see her other grandson, she would make plans herself. Trying to force a relationship between her and your son will only end with him hurt and feeling less than the other 2. Not the a-hole. Her behavior is really going to screw with your kid. It's going to make him feel inferior to his cousins. I wouldn't let her around him at all. All she's going to do is hurt his feelings. Not the a-hole. If you let her have access to your son, as he gets older, he'll see that she has little love for him. Having any relationship with her will be damaging. It's better to limit contact. Drop the rope and you'll be much happier. Background. I, 30 female, have been working in a company, and last year, due to virus, they announced increment and promotion freeze as part of cost-saving measure in exchange of no retrenchment. And they did keep the promise. However, this year, our revenue exceeded expectation with the gradual reopening, so there were rumors that promotion was on the table. I'm one of the top performers of my department, not sales-based, so I tried to join the competition. However, seeing how driven my colleagues were, I chose to bow out. This is also partially because my colleagues have financial commitments, so needed the extra money. Whereas for me, I am not married, no children, and only have mortgage. I also earn a couple hundred extra every month from my trust fund. I use this for easier understanding. So, sadly, they announced the staff performance results, and I got the promotion. This surprised me and I was happy. However, few days later, I was investigated by HR for bribery, and my promotion was put on hold. I was shocked and found out Kay, my other top-performing colleague, reported me based on my peer review, higher than his, and hence my overall score was higher. He has the highest performance review. I was second. During investigation, turns out Kay reported about me sending birthday cakes to my branch's staffs, 10 people in 5 branches, in the past year as potential bribery. I was put on unpaid suspension, and my branches and myself needed to submit various documents to show that all I sent them was a $20 cake, or cheaper. I did this since I couldn't travel to see them, so I figured I'd send them something small to maintain working relationship. There is no specific bribery policy in my company, as long as it is not in excess. My department was also investigated as I sent the people I worked with, and 20 of them, Christmas cupcakes last year since we were all working from home. I have always done this, and even before virus, and Kay, one of the recipients, never saw the issue. Long story short, after 2 weeks of unpaid suspension, I was cleared and my promotion went through. First day back, Kay pulled me aside. While we were somber, he did not apologize to me. He asked if I could keep the title and give him the increment instead. I was shocked by the audacity and chided him instead, and how he is putting me and everyone I work with in danger of losing our jobs, especially in this virus time. Again, he was somber and quiet, but did not apologize, and I left. It has been a few days, and my other colleagues have approached me to explain that Kay is in a financial strain, as he just had his second child, and his wife was put on furlough due to virus. They asked me to be understanding and give up the increment portion, since I do come from a wealthy family and did not need the extra money anyway. Edit. To answer some of the most common questions, Kay is not fired because there was no false reporting. I gave the gifts, but the final result was immaterial for it to be considered bribe. Unpaid suspension hold because, again, no false reporting, but I am not in any trouble since it is immaterial. I'm not sure if it is allowed or legal. I never think that far, and thank God I didn't. As from comments, seems like I will be in real bribery charge then. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I am shocked that your company didn't fire Kay for being malicious. You don't owe Kay a damn thing. Not the a-hole. Go back to HR. Tell them that Kay is conducting an unorganized campaign against you, and you need it to stop. Also, stop feeling guilty about being recognized for your hard work. Maybe Kay would have earned the promotion fair and square if he didn't waste so much time and energy on acting entitled to it. And keep your eye out for other opportunities elsewhere, because any company that didn't figure out this was Kay's problem and nip that in the bud is probably not a place you want to stay. Not the a-hole. This man intentionally reported you for nothing, hoping he would end up with the promotion. When it didn't work, he had the audacity to ask you for the money. Absolutely do not give it to him. If he is having financial issues, he'll need to figure it out on his own. You're neither his family nor friend, and he doesn't deserve your help, especially after his abominable behavior. Edited to add, the petty part of me really wants you to tell him something like, "If I gave you that money, that could be seen as a bribe. Sorry," in a super cheerful tone with a smile. My mother-in-law has issues with other people's events. Weddings seem to be her big trigger, but she has been known to go a little bat-crap insane over birthdays and graduations as well. Now, I've occasionally heard of some jealousy coming out when the mom didn't get a wedding of her own, but mother-in-law had a big, beautiful wedding. She just can't stand not to be in the center of attention. It was bad when sister-in-law got married. She wore the most over-the-top sparkly dress, cried about how none of us love her, and hung all over father-in-law all night. She had a full-on breakdown during the family photos and demanded to know why dear husband never remembers her birthday. Now, I'm not entirely sure how much her kids love her, but her husband certainly does, so she was being ridiculous. She then got really drunk with her brother and cried until father-in-law took her home. I got married 2 years ago and I was worried, but mother-in-law was surprisingly calm. She was kind of reserved and sulky, but overall she was okay. Father-in-law kept telling her she was doing great and he was so proud, which I found weird because she wasn't actually doing anything. Father-in-law literally took her chin between his fingers during pictures and was like, "You are doing amazing. I'm so proud of you." Weird, but whatever. We had a birthday party for dear daughter the other day. Mother-in-law came without father-in-law because he had to golf. He actually did have to. It was business. Mother-in-law was fine, and sister-in-law made a joke about mother-in-law's doing so good without father-in-law there to bribe her. Dear husband asked what she meant, and sister-in-law laughed and said that when we got married, the only reason mother-in-law acted normal was because father-in-law promised her a weekend trip wherever she wanted, doing whatever she wanted, if she didn't throw a fit. I was just floored. This woman is 50 years old, and I said that was absolutely pathetic. Mother-in-law immediately got defensive and said I should shut up, and I have no right to judge her. Dear husband told her not to talk to me like that, and mother-in-law screamed at us that we were all horrible and we were picking on her. I said sorry if it was harsh, but she was pathetic, and she left crying. Father-in-law called dear husband later and cussed him out. He said that I am an evil witch, what he does with his wife is his business, and that I am making fun of her for having emotional issues. He said we are banned from his house until I apologize to his wife, and I know that hurt dear husband because he is so close to his dad. Everyone sucks here. I mean, is it a little sad that she needs to be bribed to stay calm in the presence of other people's happiness? Yes, absolutely. Would I tell her she's pathetic to her face? Probably not. In the end, OP got a nice wedding and she didn't have to pay for the trip. It didn't hurt her at all that father-in-law did some bribing. Is it pathetic? Yes. Do you say that to someone's face? No. Starting crap with a known drama llama makes you a drama llama yourself. You should have just done an internal eye roll and moved on. Feel lucky you didn't have a scene at your wedding and buy father-in-law some nice cookies as thanks. Not the a-hole. Your mother-in-law is an adult and she's acting like a toddler throwing a tantrum anytime she doesn't get her way or have all the attention on her. The fact that she had to be bribed by father-in-law and then coddled the whole time, "You're doing so well," in order for her to act like a decent grown-up is beyond ridiculous, especially because sulking and pouting the whole time is not doing so well, in my opinion. Your sister-in-law shouldn't have said anything in front of mother-in-law, since it clearly was going to start drama that wasn't needed, but I don't think your response was out of line. I too would have laughed out loud and said how ludicrous the whole situation is. It sounds like everyone is used to just going along with mother-in-law and her antics to keep the peace, which I don't necessarily agree with. I know mother-in-law and father-in-law keep stating emotional issues, but it sounds to me like her issues are to cry, throw a fit, and guilt trip to get her way. So, not the a-hole.